Good morning, and welcome to Buckeye Wars. This is a little con- uh, collection of thoughts, of memories, little stories of what it was like for me growing up in El Dorado Hills, California in the 70s and the 80s. Oh, wow. It's been a crazy week. Um, let's see. Sleep is on my mind. And, oh, you know why sleep's on my mind? I just started using a CPAP machine. Whew, crazy. But it's working pretty well. But I digress. How did you know where your friends were when you were a kid? You'd go to their house, they weren't home. Mom and dad didn't have a clue where they were. Oh, they're out and about somewhere. How'd you know where they were? Because we didn't have cell phones. Hell, we didn't even have beepers. Do you remember beepers? You'd call the number and it would zzz, zzz, zzz on somebody's belt loop. And then they'd look at it and it had the phone number that called them. And then they would call that phone number and say, hey, what do you want? We didn't have any of that. Hell, we barely had the cans with the string that you could pull taut and talk from one area to another. Anyway, what we would do is we'd get on our bicycle and we'd ride around. And we always knew where everybody was because there was a pile of bicycles in the front yard where everybody would just kind of ride up and kind of toss their bike aside and then go inside and play Pong or Sorry or Monopoly or whatever. Tiddlywinks. Oh, Operation. Do you remember Operation? That game was a kick. If you don't know what Operation is, I don't know if I can explain it or not. There was a board. It was about 3 inches thick, and there was a picture of a guy on the top of the board, and the whole thing was battery operated, kind of electrified, and there was holes for where pieces of the person would be, like if you were a doctor and you're performing an operation, and you had a pair of tweezers, and it was connected to a tether so that you didn't lose the tweezers, I suppose. And you had to dig down into those holes and try not to touch the sides of the holes and retrieve the say the funny bone or the wishbone or the heart of the dude. And it was tough for a kid. We didn't have necessarily the skills and the dexterity to be able to go straight into that hole, grab the heart, and pull it out without the metal of the tweezers touching the side as you go into the hole trying to retrieve the heart. And if you touch the side, it would go, and the dude's nose would light up. It was fun. Oh, Operation. We played a lot of that. And let's see, there was another game. Pickup sticks. Craziest thing. Whoever invented that made a fortune, I'm sure. They were probably 6-inch long little plastic sticks, kind of about the thickness of a swizzle stick you might get in your cocktail. And they were pointy at both ends, and they came in a tube about the thickness of a toilet paper roll, and it was capped at both ends with little metal caps, and you would pop off one of those caps and you would pour out the sticks, and you would pour them out straight onto the table, or on the floor. And they were colored. And you were given one of the sticks as your tool, and you had to try to, with that tool or with just your hands, pull the different sticks, the different colors, and each color had a different point value, I suppose. And there was like one stick that was like the prize stick, kind of like playing 8-ball. You got all the balls that you have to get, and then the very last one is an 8-ball, and there's only one 8-ball, obviously. But it was tough because the sticks would overlap, and therefore trying to get it out of the pile without moving the others, that was hard. So if there was if the prized stick was, say, yellow, and there was 3 reds and a blue on top of that, you had to get those 3 reds and a blue out of there before you could get your yellow. And you could only grab one stick at a time for your turn. So if it wasn't planned right and you didn't get what you needed when you needed it, it made it kind of tough. And then, of course, if you we had tiddlywinks. You ever heard of tiddlywinks? I think everybody's heard of tiddlywinks. They were little plastic discs about the size of a bottle cap. They were thin, like a coin, and you would press down on one with another, and it would pop, kind of jump, and you would try to jump it into different things. It was fun. But I digress, because we didn't really spend much time inside. So we would all get together, and if you weren't part of the little gang when we got together, you were kind of out of luck. And we'd ride around. We'd ride them bikes everywhere. And in El Dorado Hills, there's everywhere to go. And sometimes we really got adventurous, and we went off-road. We went four-wheeling with our bicycles. I remember one time we pushed them damn bicycles all the way to the top of the hill. Now, we were in the foothills, and there were trails on the foothills. You had to get through a fence because there was cows. So you had to get through the fence, which you pull a wire up and you push a wire down and you crawl in between. And when you got a bicycle, you just throw your bicycle over the top, and then your buddies help you get through the fence, and you get through the fence, you pick up your bicycle, and you keep on trucking. And you get on these trails, but we pushed all the way to the top of one of these foothills, and you can look out over the El Dorado Hills Boulevard, the little valley. You're looking down from you're on the top of the hill, and we thought, we took them bicycles and went straight down that hill at screaming fast speed. Going down the hill. And I remember Rich hit a stick that must have been, I don't know, maybe about that big around stick, and it was probably 4 feet long, and he didn't see it until he hit it, and he hit that while he was coming down the hill. And of course, when you hit something like that, it makes a loud noise, and it cracked, and it was loud like a shotgun. Pack! We're flying down that hill, and we didn't even think about the fact that there's a damn fence at the bottom of that hill that's barbed wire. So we're down the hill, and the fence is coming up, and thank goodness we were paying attention and saw it in time. We put on the brakes and skidded to a halt right in front of that fence. If we hadn't paid attention, we would have been Swiss cheese. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Just a little snippet what it was like growing up in El Dorado Hills, California in the 70s and the 80s. I call it Buckeye Wars.